Good evening and welcome to this live with myself, Saj Hussain. I'm here every Monday at 8:30 p.m. to answer your property questions. So this is an opportunity for you to get any property investing questions answered. I'm here for about half an hour and I'm going to answer the question in whatever order they appear. So we're live streaming on a number of platforms. That's YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram and Twitter. I just want to remember all the platforms that we're on. So wherever you're watching this right now, if it's a live broadcast, make sure you put your question in the comment section. We'll pick them up. They'll either flash up on screen here or my lovely assistant over here, my younger daughter, will pass those questions to me and I'll try and get those answered for you in the time that we have. Let me know you can hear me okay. Say a quick hi on the platform and I'll give you a shout out in a moment. So just before we start, I just want to touch on a couple of things that's been happening right now in the marketplace. So firstly, one of the things that we've heard in the last few days is the government talking about that notice period now will be extended to 6 months if you need to get your property back, which personally I think is absolutely crazy thing to be doing, because although what they are trying to do is make it easier for tenants so they're not evicted, which is completely understandable, but what they're doing is leaving landlords completely vulnerable to be taken advantage of. So if a tenant's not able to pay their rent or be difficult, there's antisocial, there's other problems, or the property needs to be returned for whatever other reason, it needs to be sold or something else needs to happen. Now, you know, it could be several months before there's any possibility of being able to get that tenant out of the property, which I think is a completely unfair system, because, as I said, the landlords are not protected in any way whatsoever. So the thing to really consider is a lot of landlords, a vast majority of landlords in this country are what I call mom and pop landlords. They're basically regular people with maybe one additional property, which is a buy to let. That's a lot of landlords just fall into that category. And then there's a few that have say 2 or 3 properties, and that's it. There's a very small number of landlords that have more properties than that. So a regular landlord who works very hard, maybe a husband and wife, and they've got say a portfolio of 3 properties. Now if they've got say 3 tenants that are not able to pay rent and they're not able to get those property back, if you think about their circumstances, how are they supposed to be able to pay the mortgage? They'll have more outgoings than they have coming in each month, and that's going to put them in a very difficult financial position. And I think personally the government is not really thinking about the impact that it's having on landlords. The reality in the last few years, I don't think the government has really been thinking about landlords at all. They've been bashing landlords and giving them a battering. And although some people might say, oh, properties are unfair in terms of the distribution of property, the reality is we live in the world that we live in, and we abide by the rules that are created for us by the governments. And if property is a business opportunity where they're available to buy, you invest in them, you save up for deposits, you work your blood, sweat and tears in terms of getting those properties looking nice, that you let out to somebody who will pay you rent and you will make a small profit each month. And assuming there's no major problems with that property, at the end of the year, you'll have a little bit of profit that you'll pay tax on. Now, that's changed completely as well, because if you've got the property in your personal name, now you get hammered from a tax point of view. But put that aside, you know, if you've got a situation where someone hasn't paid rent, or sometimes that can happen where the tenant has left the property not a great way, or trashed it even, which is rare, but it happens, then, you know, that landlord has to cover those costs to be able to get that property in good order again. So apologies if it sounds like I'm going off on a bit of a rant, but I'm really annoyed to hear what has been happening in the last couple of days with what the government's plans are. As I said, I think it's a really unfair system. The other thing is, I've been chatting to if you leave those here, I'll answer those in just a moment. The other thing is the market's still very strong. We're still seeing signs of a lack of supply. There's not enough stock in the market. There's still plenty of buyers out there, although fewer than they were pre-lockdown. There are still plenty of strong and active buyers out there that are driving up prices, property selling very quickly. So speaking to some agents over the last few days, it's interesting to get their view on the market and how they think it might be changing in a few months' time. You know, if the government continues to provide the support the way it has, furlough schemes, grants, and various other things as well, is preventing the economy from falling flat on its face and crashing. But how long is this support going to last for? So furlough scheme is going to start coming to an end over the next couple of months or so. And as the bounce back loans and other things start disappearing, i.e. they've spent, then we're going to see the outcome of that. And really the biggest risk for us is unemployment. If unemployment starts rising, that will certainly have an impact in house prices. House price will start to fall. It'll also have an impact in terms of tenants' ability to pay rent as well. So just to share with you a few thoughts in terms of where we are in the marketplace and what's been happening right now. Just give a shout out to a few people. If you've got a question for me, make sure you put it in the comment section. I'll just answer it in the order that they appear on the screen here, regardless of what platform you're on. As I said, I'm here every Monday at 8:30 p.m. to answer your property questions. I've been investing in property for about 15 years, so happy to share my knowledge and experience with you. I've done lots of different strategies. Hey, look, I don't claim to know everything there's know about property, but I certainly have a lot of knowledge and experience I'm happy to share with you. So hi to Dode on YouTube, Massa on YouTube, Leslie on LinkedIn, NASA on Facebook, Ryan on LinkedIn, Jamie on YouTube. So just hi to a few people there. What I'll do is I'll take questions. I'm just looking at this first question here. Just 1 second. Oh, the screen's about to turn off. I just looked at this question here. I think it's split over a few different questions. So Doug's asking, the council said they will give me 1 year of HMO. Can they change their mind after a year? If they do, then we'll need to take down the fire panel system. Okay, let me know you can hear me okay, because I was also saying that the signal's not great. So just to understand a little bit more about Dode's question, if you've got a license issued only for a year, I'm not sure what part of the country you're in, so I'm just going to make some assumptions. If a license issued for a year, there'll be some conditions attached to why that is. Often a 5-year license might get restricted to 1 year because they want you to do a certain number of things. They want you to carry out certain works or changes to the property, and as long as you do those, or as long as you comply by whatever it is that they've stipulated and asked you to do, then there should be no reason why you can't renew that license again in normal 5 years time after the first 12 months. It's quite unusual for them to only issue a license for only 1 year. There's going to be some reasoning behind that, and a little bit unclear without enough background context in terms of your question as to why that might be the case. With regards to fire alarm panel, if you chose not to run the house as a HMO anymore and you've got an existing fire alarm system in there, well, look, it's your choice. If you take it out, you could always turn it off and just whoever you're going to let it to, you're going to have some fire safety in the house anyway. So as long as you've got something in place, you don't need a full-blown fire alarm system there. You could always remove it. It's no issue in terms of doing that if you're not running it as a HMO anymore. A lot of licensing when it comes to HMOs is really about providing some level of protection to the tenants. Years ago, when there wasn't really any rules or regulations as such around HMOs, one of the problems was overcrowding in HMOs, too many people living in small spaces, there being not enough facilities for everybody there, and a fire risk as well. So really the licensing regime is there to ensure that the tenants are being protected and that they're being looked after in the right way. That's really what that's there for. Licensing are there to help and support both the landlord and the tenant. So it's speaking to them and understanding how you can find a resolution to that. I hope that helps you there, Dode. So the next question I have is on YouTube. It's from Massa. Do I need a HMO license in Article 4 area if I am planning to house homeless people? Interesting question. So let's first of all just clarify between planning and licensing, because they're two separate things. If you're looking to create a house shared where you've got, say, 3 or more people that are unrelated to each other, living in a house, so let's just use Birmingham again as an example, because I'm in Birmingham and that's where most of our properties are when it comes to HMOs, then you'll need now planning permission because it's an Article 4 area. Article 4 meaning that the permitted development rights of being able to take a family house and turn it into a HMO have now been removed. You have to go through a planning application to be able to do that. And then the license comes into place if you've got 6 or more people that are unrelated in the house. Sorry, not 6, 5 or more people. If it's 4, then it doesn't need to be licensed. Once a 5th person moves in, then it's licensable. Then your license, you need to apply for a license. So 2 separate things, planning and licensing. So then to add a 3rd thing into the mix, if you're using the house for social housing, i.e. where it's not the individual that's living there that's paying the rent, it could be the local authority or government directly. Now, this type of accommodation is classed slightly differently, and if you're working with, say, a housing association directly, then you don't need to apply for planning or a HMO license, because these providers are exempt as long as you're working with them directly. Now, at the same time, it's important to clarify that you can't then assume that you have now got rights to use that as a HMO. So you can't put working tenants in that property afterwards, because technically speaking, it hasn't had a change of use from what is C3 to C4. C3 is a family house, C4 is a HMO. So when you're using for social housing, it doesn't actually change its status to a C4, which is why you don't need planning and why you don't need a license, even though the providers will ask you to make the property up to spec so that it's the same standard as the one that was licensable. You just don't apply for the HMO license. I hope that's helped and clarified that for you, Massa. So next question from NASA on Facebook. Hi Saj, great to see you here again. How are you finding rentals at the moment? Is there more difficult to rent rooms than normal on HMOs rent-to-rents? So yes, NASA, the market is certainly much more competitive than it was, say last year or maybe even the year before. And I think some of that is due to there's a huge number of rooms in the market available right now, particularly talking about locally Birmingham. That's where our experience is. Well, it tends to be Birmingham. The Black Country and Solihull is where predominantly we tend to focus on running and managing HMOs, and these are for working tenants and professional tenants, or white collar, blue collar, as I tend to call them. Now, so within that category, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of very good quality accommodation. There's some properties at the higher range as well in terms of price and the quality, the finish of the product as well. And then also there's a lot at the cheaper end as well. But there seems to be a lot of supply in the marketplace. So when you look at the portals, your Rightmove, Zoopla, Spare Room, etc., places like that, you'll see there's plenty of properties being advertised. Now, some landlords are, I guess, panicking is probably the best way to put it, if it's taking longer to let their rooms, and they're being much more flexible in terms of taking a lot lower rent or not taking a deposit, etc., just to make it easy to get the tenants in, which personally I don't think is the best way to do it, because you are potentially kicking the can down the road for there being a problem by not vetting thoroughly up front, by just allowing someone to move in that's not being vetted properly, just so it means you can get some rent in right now. So there are still people looking. There's still people looking at moving, and we're still letting rooms. We're not letting as many rooms as we would have done, let's say, last year at this time of the year. Traditionally, as we start getting into September, October, they tend to be the busiest times of the year for us. And the reason for that is, as the university academic year changes, it has a knock-on effect to our market. But if we're not letting to students, how does that affect us? Well, the way it affects the market is you get graduates coming into the market, starting their first job, relocating, maybe moving out of a student house, but still want to live in a shared house, even though they're not necessarily a student anymore. You get people moving to the area for a work placement, say for a year as well. So all this change happens in the market around this time, September, October, which is why we get a burst of activity in the marketplace. Now, clearly this year is very different with everything that's going on. So we're not really certain how that's going to pan out. at the moment. So we've yet to see what will happen over the next few weeks compared to what would ordinarily happen this time of the year. Now, I'd say if you've got a good product and you're competitively priced, you should still be letting those rooms. It might take you a little bit longer, but you should still be letting those rooms. If you're really struggling to let the rooms, I'd revisit first of all your price and your marketing as well, in terms of how you're presenting that property. What's the photography look like? How is the room appear in the photographs? Is the room dressed even though it might not be available dressed, but it just shows more of a lifestyle in terms of what people are going to get when they come into that room, how they're going to live. So the more of a better quality marketing you can have, and better photographs and, for example, 3D tours, walkthrough videos, virtual tours, all these things will help in your marketing. I'm not a big fan of lowering the barrier to entry, i.e. reducing the rent or reducing a deposit or not taking a guarantee. All these things I feel are a lowering of the barrier to entry, which I said I'm not a big fan of, because I think that means if you're having your tenants be able to jump through a few of these hoops, you're unlikely to have problems in our experience further down the road. When you make it too easy, you sometimes may not be thorough in the vetting of the tenants, in the eagerness to get somebody into the property. In my experience, they're often the ones that turn into a problem further down the road, and it becomes a much bigger headache. I'd rather have an empty room than a tenant in a room that's not paying rent. A lot more hassle. Either way, you're not making any money. So I hope that helps, Nasser. So let me see what we've got next. We've got something on Instagram. Just one second. Let's just get my glasses. So the Instagram one doesn't show up on my screen there. We have so a couple of people are saying hi, Yogesh. So question from In Capital, what was your first JV? So my first JV was an accident. So what I mean by that is going back about 10, 11 years, I was sourcing property. That was really where I started. I'd find property deals, either discounted or some creative structure, lease option, vendor finance, many creative ways of doing deals, even a lot of no money down type deals at that time. And I'd sell these on to a potential investor for a fee, 2,000, 3,000, whatever it might be. That was essentially the business model. And at one point I had a property that where the seller, I was speaking to him for a few months. They were in the process of getting repossessed, and we were trying to stop that from happening. We were trying to prevent them getting repossessed and losing their home. I was trying to offer this deal to an investor to buy. This was going on for several months. I'd invested a lot of time and effort in trying to help the vendor not lose their home, being able to sell it and still be able to walk away and start again and rebuild their life. And as it got closer to the repossession, the debt was building up on the property, and I was trying to structure this deal for the investor to buy. The investor was reluctant to buy because he wasn't sure or confident that my numbers that I was suggesting were going to work, i.e. what rent we're going to get on the property, how much it needed to just improve it and get it in good order. In the end, I thought, well, look, if I don't, if the investor doesn't buy this property, the seller is going to lose out on their home, i.e. you'll get repossessed, they'll become homeless. The investor will lose out on a good deal, and I've lost a huge amount of time and effort that I'll put into this particular deal. So to try and salvage it, what I said to the investor was, look, if you buy this deal, if you take the property on, don't pay me a fee. I will deliver the numbers for you. I'll make sure that the works are done on the property within the budget that I said it should be, and I'll make sure it gets rented for the price, the rent that I'm saying that you should get for that property. And if that happens, then you can we can do some kind of profit share on the rent. And really, that was my first stumbling into a joint venture. Whereas the investor bought the property and I delivered on what I said we'd do, and we set up a profit share on that. And that's what really got me started in working with other people and using other people's money to grow the business. So I hope that helps. There was In Capital on Instagram. A message here saying the sound is not quite right in the picture. Just let me know you can see and hear me okay. Yeah, just let me know that you can actually see and hear me okay. Cool. Just showing me a screen over there. So and we've got one here from Kalpesh. Hello again, Saj. Thanks for all your great content and sharing. So no question, but thank you very much for Kalpesh. I appreciate that. Look, I'm here and I turn up, but this only works if you're here as well. So what that means is you show up, I show up, I'm happy to help and support you. And if I was the only one here, this would be quite lonely and it certainly wouldn't last very long. Okay. Oh, I've got a question here. I think this is from Kalpesh. Let me just get this up on screen. Question: do you have any thoughts on electric underfloor heating? I'm about to renovate a mid-floor flat in London, which has gas fires only and no boiler, only immersion heater. Builder suggesting. I don't have any experience of electric underfloor heating, but very recently I was looking at a property that we have that doesn't have a gas supply to put an electric combi boiler in, so we can run the central heating off there and the hot water as well. And actually, the short list of boilers we had was quite impressive and how they work. So I haven't completed on that, so I can't share how that's panned out. But it was quite impressive in terms of how much the technology has progressed and how good and efficient these types of products are. But you seem to have indicated there's gas already there as well. So maybe this is something you can just run off your boiler as opposed to a separate electric one. I don't actually have any experience of that, so I'm not sure how that'll pan out. It sounds interesting for sure. I hope that helps. I'm just scrolling through some highs here. I'm just finding a question. Iram saying, wish I'd seen this video a few months back. Great advice. Thank you very much. So said I've been running these probably more than 6 months, but then during lockdown I'd stopped these, put them on pause, and I've started them up again. And my monthly network meeting unfortunately is not running right now either with lockdown. I'm hoping later in the year we'll get that started up again. It was the largest meeting outside London, a monthly property network meeting where you get to meet other like-minded people and a sharing of knowledge as well to really help you grow your property business. Hopefully we'll have that back on track again soon. But thank you for that message, Ibrahim. We've got a question here. Just 1 second. Muddy749 on Instagram. Hi, your question is, what's the average rent on a 6-bedroom HMO? So this is a great question, and it really depends on the area. So I'll give you an example of Birmingham. A standard double room on average we'd achieve around £400. Now, there's a lot of variables in terms of the size of the room, the quality of the accommodation. That's not only the bedroom, but the communal areas, and then things like the finish on the house itself. The location is key as well. All these things will impact the rent that you can achieve on a room. But let's say typically it's around £400. Now, if it's an ensuite room, so they have their own exclusive bathroom, it tends to start at about £450 and above. Now, there's still quite a range in terms of the lowest price rooms we have for Birmingham, Dudley and Solihull. It's probably about £300, just over £300. That's a single small room in a house. We've probably got a few, not many of these, where you only get a single bed and a wardrobe, a desk in there, so not huge rooms. Often they suit people that maybe work away from home, so they're there 4 or 5 nights of the week. Then at the weekend they actually go home to their family. So it's really somewhere just to put their head down whilst they're there during the week. So that's probably at the starting point in terms of what we have rent wise, and then it goes up to about £800. These are rooms that we get essentially a premium rent for because they're very nice rooms. They're very close to the hospital. Often they attract doctors and other medics that are there on contracts working at the hospital. They're there for a short period of time. They want good quality accommodation that's literally a stone's throw away from the hospital. So they're probably the highest rents that we get, and that's the range. We've got lots of rooms around the 700, 750, what we call our premium end range of the market. And many of the properties generally we grade as A, B, and C. A are stunning, fantastic rooms, generally brand new. B are normally very good rooms, probably renovated in the last 2 or 3 years. And C's are ones that, well, maybe getting a little bit tired now and probably could do with freshening up. Not my favorite rooms, but there's some of those in the portfolio that we either own or manage. So that tends to be the range. So on a 6-bedroom, we just multiply the figure by 6. Now this is inclusive of bills. So what bills do we normally include in that? For the tenant, we will include the gas, the electric, the water, the council tax, the TV license, cleaners, gardeners, and internet. All of those things are inclusive within the rent that the tenant will pay. So there's none of these things that they have to pay for. Cleaners will normally go in weekly. And things like the gas bill, we have to take an average of the year. So in the summer months, the gas bill will be much lower. In the winter months, the gas will be a lot higher, and even the electric will be a little bit higher as well. So in the winter months, because well, the days are shorter, so even the lighting is used a lot more as well. So you've got some variance in those things like your council tax, your internet usage, your water. Often these things are fixed, and you can take a view on what they will be. Gardens are different size. Some of them might have very little lawns. Some of them might have huge lawns. So again, we take a little bit of an average, but that's the figure that we tend to use. So, sorry, that's the items that we include, and the cost that we apportion to that is around £85 to £90 per person per room per month. So if it's 6 rooms, it's 90 times 6 or 85 times 6. That tends to be the average on how we calculate that. When I'm doing these things in my head, very quickly I kind of allocate about £500 to bills, and then I can work out a net figure from there. So I hope that helps. I hope it gives you a little bit of an idea in terms of rents. But of course, it depends on your area. One of the easiest ways to take a gauge for what the market rents are is to have a look on portals like Spare Room, and you can have a look on Rightmove and Zoopla as well. In different towns and cities, you might get more or less rooms advertised on the likes of Rightmove and Zoopla. Often the best source for room data for working people will be Spare Room. And if you just want to get a gauge for what the local authority rate or the LHA rate is, like what the council pays for rents, or what would be termed housing benefit rate, if you like, then you look at the LHA rate, and if you just Google, I think if you just Google LHA rates, i.e. local housing allowance rates, you'll get the government website that pops up. Is an orange coloured one, and you put the postcode in there, it will tell you what the rates are. So in Birmingham, I think the rate's about £57 a week for a bedroom. So just do a quick calculation for you, because I don't get involved in social housing very much, so not really my area of expertise, but just to give you a quick calculation. So £57 a week, I times that by 52 to give me the yearly figure, then divide that by 12, that's £247 a month, and they'd be expected to pay bills on top of that. So if I just added on, say, 90 quid to that, it's around 337. That again helps me just build up a bit of a gauge of what the market will be. So I know it's certainly not going to be less than that. It's only going to be more than that, depending on the quality of the accommodation, the location, the size, as well, in terms of what you've got. So I hope that helps. Hope that answers your question there. How are we doing for time? Let's see if we can. I don't think I've got another short question that I can. Actually, Kalpesh has come back with a comment here. So 2 different builders suggested we install it as it's easier to retrofit versus gas central heating, and they said the new versions are decent and come with warranties, but I'm unsure. I think the warranties are quite important, Kalpesh. If you've not used something like this, it's always good to try and speak to other people. Like just as you're asking me, I haven't used them, so I don't have any experience of them. But it's good to get a view from other people in terms of other people that may have used them. So if the builder's already fitted them for other people, maybe speak to them. What's been their experience of using those? The warranties are key, but of course it's about who's offering the warranty. So if it's a builder you've worked with before, you trust them, you know the warranties are good. If there's ever an issue, they can come back to them. If it's a builder you've never met before, you just picked out of one of the trade websites, and they're suggesting this for you, then of course you've got to think about what's the likelihood of them being able to deliver on their warranty. You've never worked with them before, you have no experience of them as well, so just something to bear in mind. So look, I hope that helps. Thank you so much for giving up your time to spend with me this evening. Remember, I'm here every Monday at 8:30 p.m. To share my knowledge and experience to help you get further faster in your property investing journey. I also have a weekly vlog that I have on my YouTube channel, so make sure you watch that, where I talk about my case studies, the things that I'm up to at the moment, and the monthly meetings. I'm hoping before the end of the year we'll get those started again. So once again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you here next Monday.